Uh-oh. This is it.
All
Uh-oh.
right.
All right, we got
We're
a
we,
mystery.
we are live and it's mystery time. Hey everybody, what's up? We're back. The closing table. We took a month off, but we're back in the middle of the summer. Happy July to everybody out there in TV land. As you can see, myself, the one and only Dan Pizzi of NextHome Brandywine over there next to me, and below us is truly the one and only good old Hub, and he's got a little mystery present for us. He's going to spring on us in a little bit, but we're here and we're going to talk to you all about the world of real estate and much, much more. So, Dan, catch us up. How's things going out there?
I'm always honest.
Yeah,
Not great. I tell you, there's a lot of factors going on. It's stuff you can attempt to work through at this time, but there is a lot of moving parts, very topsy turvy. And you know what? It's summer, and we always get a little bit of a slowdown. And I think I was in the transportation business as well. People panic, but certain times of year, certain segments slow down, so it does tend to slow a little bit for us. But real estate wise, interest rates are causing havoc right now. They have bumped between 7.5, depending on the day, and 7.8, 7.9, and that's with good credit. So the interest rates is where we're falling into a little bit of a situation, if you may. Like, again, say I want to sell. I have an interest rate under 4 right now. I want to sell my house. I can make good money on my house, a lot of profit on it. I want to go buy another house. So I have excellent credit, 800 plus credit. My interest rate is still going to be in the mid to upper sevens. So it's hard
that's
to
insane.
sell. And I tell people this, which again, it's a very fast paced society. See it on paper. Listening to a number doesn't mean jack unless you're actually physically seeing it. We have two different forms we use: buyer's estimate at closing and a seller's net sheet. What does your numbers look like on paper? It's very important. You could say, I could afford 200. What are your taxes? We had Dave Tomlin on, and we spoke about the increases in the homeowners policies. That's hurting people on a monthly payment, and the catastrophic increases in the mortgage interest rates. And there hasn't really been a rhyme or a reason for why these interest rates have jumped from 5.5% in the early year market to 6.5%, like pre-spring, now jumping to 7.5, almost 8, depending on the day. So, you know, and we run into lack of inventory. So we have an interest rate issue, we have an extreme lack of inventory, and the positive side of things is we still have extremely high buyer demand. In fact, we'll get into some talk. Hub has sent me some great videos on some different people's perspective throughout the country on some different topics and what's going on with our industry, and a lot of them are spot on. I mean, there's a lot of factors here that are you know causing people to pause and not list their house because they can't afford the interest rate if they buy something else. Lack of inventory in desirable areas where people want to move to. There's just no inventory. And the
Mm.
sheer excessive pricing right now has put us where we're at. I mean, literally every office is down. We had a meeting in our New Jersey office. 8 offices came together and had a little meeting, and we had a little powwow on what's going on, what we can do to kind of work together, kind of brainstorm what we can change, what we're stuck in as far as economic conditions, and how just to better serve our clients. And I think information is key in the telling people the truth. I'll tell you this, and I'll clam up here. I had 2 of my fellow agents, good people, very experienced, that I lean on. They called me up and they said a couple that they just listed within the last week or two is not selling. The houses aren't selling, and the clients think it's early spring and they're getting mad. Well, why isn't the house selling? Like, what are you doing wrong? And I
Right.
told my friend, I said, listen, you have to tell them the truth. The interest rates went up again. Look at the economic climate. Look at what that house cost as far as the buyer and what they need to get in. Yeah, and it's a lot more than it would have been last November or even this past February. It's hundreds of dollars different because of the increased pricing and the interest rates. We have one in Havertown. My office has it listed, $529,000. That house carries an $11,000 tax bill a year. So we always talk about all these. Do the math. Down payment, taxes, homeowners insurance on a house that was built in 1930ish in that range. Okay, person that wants to buy that house, they need $80,000 to get into the house with a minimum 5% down payment, and they are going to need about $4,400 to $4,500 a month to live there. So it's a high number. That's why houses are sitting, because people are taking calls. Hub's got the clock going.
And the main thing that people are concerned about is their monthly payment.
100%. And Hub, real quick to that point. People forget till the end the homeowners insurance, but I'm telling people, call for your homeowners insurance now to know what that number looks like in your monthly payment, because the homeowners insurance has gone up a ton around here. Some of them have doubled. So to Hub's point, like people when they buy a car, a lot of people want to know, what's my monthly payment? Well, your monthly payment with that increased price, with your mortgage interest rate going up in some instances over 3 points over the last 12 to 18 months, and the homeowners insurance, there's your problem. Monthly payment just to push people right out of where they can afford.
And the average price of a car right now, according to the guy we watched, is $48,000.
Right. So, and I'm going to tell you this about the car. So Danny's getting ready to drive. I have a Tacoma that's leased. I'm trying to figure out, do I buy out the Tacoma or do I look for something else? So I'm looking for these. I always look for value. So Chevy's bringing out a new truck called the Trax. It's a small entry-level SUV. The price point on it to start is under $22,000. So the demand is so high because the average cost is almost $50,000. They're making these in South Korea. I talked to the guy at the Chevy dealership, and he said, Bay's changing our background colors. So the guy at the Chevy dealer said, we used to be able to put in, and Bay was in the car industry, and get an allotment, like order the cars.
Yeah.
So the cars are in such high demand because they're low price point and they're getting an excellent review. They are shipping them just when they can over from South Korea, but they are not allotting them to the dealerships. The dealerships have to go in and basically pilfer off the manifest.
Wow.
And it's like the Wild West to get, and like I think you want to sent me to one video. I watched so many. The one guy was saying he could sell so many vehicles if he could just get them in stock because it's a reasonable price point. Do you know we have about 20 buyers in my office right now, ready, willing, and able to buy, but we don't have inventory for them? And some of them are a little hesitant because of the economic climate. So that's what we're going in. To Hub's point, it's about the bottom line comes down to how much am I paying? And I'm always a value guy. I don't see many values out there right now.
Yeah, but also another thing is too, if you're a first-time home buyer, that's actually even harder.
100%.
That's the hardest thing, because you have expectations. You've got to kind of lower your expectations and be willing to have something that's not going to be perfect, and you're going to have to fix it up some for yourself and make it good enough for yourself.
Nobody preps this guy, right? So nobody preps Hub. Hub is a musician, highly intelligent guy, but he doesn't come on here with real estate experience. His situational awareness and like that's spot on, Hub. So all the young people want to go in right now and they want something finished. Even if it's $1.79 click and lock floor, they want the look, a finished look when they go buy the house. So a lot of our area, Bay knows, Upper Darby, Drexel Hill, old. They're built in the early 1900s. There's a lot of old houses. A lot of them have what they call deferred maintenance. So to your point, there's a lot of, so right now, what's sitting on the Delaware County has ballooned. It's not a lot by any chance. It's a whole friggin' county, 500 listings. You look at the 500 listings, 480 of the listings are, I watch my words, undesirable, not as desirable, not what Hub's speaking to that the younger consumer wants to buy at the present time.
But the other thing they are get a little too picky on is it quote unquote updated?
Right.
You see, I mean that's like bell bottoms or being in the right style of do I have the right kind of terry cloth shirt or whatever it is for the era that I'm in? Well, You don't want to think about that because you've got your bills to pay. What if your air conditioner goes out?
So
What's more important? Making sure you got an air conditioner that's reliable and going to last you a while, and you have the money saved up to replace it or fix it.
So let's speak to that real quick. So Hub, I said we don't even have to script this thing. Hub tease them up. So here's my neighbor just sold, right? So the house sold for $342,500. I think the next highest house is sold here, which was a couple of years ago, was around $250,000. That's how high the house sold for. When I bring, this is a first-time home buyer. I just met him. He's actually good friends with my friend Joe. They bought the house. It needs a roof yesterday, right? So you're talking about $10,000 for a roof. We all replaced our roofs. That roof has not been replaced. It's 20 years old. Then you go into HVAC. It's the original. It's going to need to be replaced. None of the bathrooms have been updated or the kitchen. Now, if I take a first-time home buyer in there, the first thing I look at, Hub, is the updating can be done later because it's serviceable. But
they don't want to hear that.
Yeah, but here's the point. If you got, they're not looking at the AC because maybe that's not what draws their eye. I'm trying to say to people, whoa, you're going to overpay by X, but you need an HVAC and you need a roof, and do you have the extra $20,000 set aside to buy it?
They don't think that. They're thinking about fashion, and they're not thinking about. They're thinking about fashion, and they're not thinking about, am I going to be able to afford this? And I don't care if it's got vinyl veneer countertops, man. Right. If it works good and I can still afford the thing that's going to break down when it breaks down, then I got it made.
100%. But what I'm afraid of is people are buying to their max. I'm one of the only guys that's going to tell you this. My wife says sometimes you don't want the business. I don't want to see someone put in a position, right? So Boris Grimberg, Russian Jewish fellow, used to work with us. Boris Grimberg, heavy accent guy. He used to say to me, Danny, you have to resell that house. That's your inventory. So he used to say, when you put someone in a house, when they go to sell it, you should be the guy selling it. So you should make sure to the best of your ability, you're putting them in a situation that it's going to be a win-win because you're expected to sell that house in 5 to 7 years if it's a first-time home buyer when they're ready to sell. But my point is, I'm afraid that people, my wife was in the foreclosure business. Are they going in over their head? And are people going to be, because of the increased food costs? So I tell people, I just redid my budget. We're all looking at price conscious now. My budget's up $1,000 just by increased costs, not by anything I'm buying or doing differently. Just by a little bit of increased homeowners insurance, a little increased car insurance, a little increase in my food. You add everything up, I'm almost $1,000 more a month. Gas is up. What I'm trying to tell the young people is make sure that it's a reasonable situation and that you're not strapped. And if that AC goes, that you're able to, especially the heater, you're able to repair it or replace it. And you know that there's what we're using the term, Hub, deferred maintenance. Well, that's scary. Deferred maintenance to me is, what's going to break? And to Hub's point, how much is it going to cost me to fix it?
Yeah. But also, you got to think too is, do you have a relationship with guys that can fix things?
100%.
And it's people don't like this either, but you're going to get it fixed a whole lot better if you can work with the guy who's fixing it.
Oh, true, 100%. And then
it's going to work 100% better.
We just had one. I told my people 50 times, get your use and occupancy. It's a township inspection that has to be done before you sell in most municipalities. It's a safety inspection. They call it a safety inspection. It's $100 most places. It's a safety inspection. So they come out and they'll go look around and make sure that everything's right, and then they'll sign off on it. Well, this one township down in Delaware County, in Ridley Township, they're worried about the sidewalks, the curbs, all this stuff. So this guy just bought this house 7 years ago. Everything was fine. When I was down there last, I walked the sidewalks. I saw nothing wrong. Long story short, they came out, did the inspection. They said you need to replace 3 blocks of concrete and a curb. So, Hub, what did I do? I got a guy down there. He's a gem, Robert Galley, Italian guy, Galley Concrete. I said, hold on. I said, first of all, I told you to get them sooner because in case we run into this, but I'm going to bail you out because I got a guy. I said, and he always gives me an incredibly cheap price. And my family was in a concrete business for 50 years. So I call him up. he picks up right away. Dan, how you doing? Rob, I need a favor as usual. I need you to get over here to Morton. Check out this. He sent me the quote this morning. Very reasonable. 3 concrete blocks and a lot, 2 linear feet of curb for $1,100. Back in the day, I think my dad paid $450 for 3 blocks 40 years ago. Very good price. I sent it to my people. I said, you can get other quotes, but Rob can do it. Is a good quote. But to that point, you got to have people. When I see people with some of the top name brand people here doing HVAC work, I think, why don't you have a local guy that you have a relationship with and you might be able to work with to kind of get it at a more reasonable price?
But it's not just a reasonable price. You want the guy who does the job right.
That's a good point too.
And you want to develop a relationship with those guys that do the job right, like the plumbing guy, the guy who fixes and remodels things for you, that you work with him. You want, like I do this, I always buy them lunch every time. I go pick it up for them. I want to make sure that when I call them, they're going to be there when I need them.
You know what else too? I always make sure that if I'm in the middle, that person's getting paid timely. That goes a long way. Here comes the cat, and we know we're going to.
Yeah, you're going to pay. You don't care what you're paying them. Whatever you can pay, you pay it right off, and you pay them. Maybe give them a little bit every now and then extra. You don't care because you want them to be happy. You want them to be enjoying that job. You want to make them 100%. Happy that they came to work with you because they're having fun working with you.
100%. That's why this guy picks up the phone right away. I call him whenever, right away. Hey, Dan. And one of my agents, Evelyn, had stumbled upon him when we needed some concrete work done in Drexel Hill. And this guy's been a gem for us because it's hard to get a good, reasonably priced, timely contractor to come out and do anything today. So, there's a lot going on. I mean, I'm doing good. My office is struggling as far as units go, like every other office, because of all these factors. But, we still are in constant contact with our clients. We're still, doing our marketing and advertising and staying in front of people, letting them know that we're there. We're the straightforward, honest realtors that are going to help you get to the end line. I'm in my 18th year, as I always say here. So it's coming up on my 18th year here. It's about being able to navigate things in this economic climate and be able to do things to try to avoid any pitfalls, especially if it's going to cost somebody money. I'll give you this real quick. We have the seller, the one I'm selling in Ridley Township. She bought the house under, and I did a thing on this base. She bought the house under her maiden name. They were not married yet. So when they do that, the searcher has to search her maiden name and her married name. Now, that's the title company's job, not my job, but I know what needs to be done. I've asked them like twice, and everybody was like not paying attention. I said, do you understand that they are married now and the name is blank, blank, not just the married name? And finally, I got through to the title lady, Tina, and she's like, oh, thank God. Like, it's your job, but oh, thank God, Dan, that you noticed that. I said, yeah. I said, this was a coordinated settlement, right? So they were settling and buying a new house in New Jersey on the same day. Imagine that little thing I didn't bring up. We would have been at the settlement table. No settlement because they didn't run the search under the married name and the maiden name. So now what you need to do in that instance, it's very simple. But if our heads aren't right, we're not paying attention. Very simple. What I did was, you run the search, make sure you do your part as far as the title company. Then I'll send you a marriage certificate to prove that she's married now. She's taking the married name. And then when you send me the deed package for them to sign, it has her maiden name, then the married name, who are also known as. That way, the title company covers themselves as far as make sure there's no lien on the title in one name or another name. So that's very small, right? How many people are going to notice it? It sounds ludicrous,
right?
I'm sorry, but most are. We're not going to notice it. We're not going to get to the details. Do you know how much money it would have cost me? Do you know how much money that would have cost the sellers, the buyers, and everybody else involved? It's a business. You got to pay. Right now, everybody's a little bit upset. A lot of things going on, and they're not being clear. The brains are cloudy, and they're not paying attention to detail. I'm running into this for the decreased amount of business we're doing it. We're running into this across the board. People need to pay attention to the details. And my wife says it. My wife makes fun of me. She said, if you're the guy that's the detail guy, we're in trouble. She always because she's the most detailed in the household. So we always are like, but that would have blew up a double settlement. Could you imagine the movers? The people were moving into their house. They were moving out of their house, moving into the new house, all within a 4 or 5 hour window. It would have been a disaster for these people.
That's crazy.
So,
and if people want to watch it too, you made a short video about that too.
Yep, we did a short video.
Really good. And so people will want to watch that again, that short video you made about that.
Just to tell people, hey, this can happen. You arm yourself. Hub sends me a bunch of videos to watch, right? And then they're just informational stuff on, like my mom says, why is Hub mention those videos, send those videos? It's all stuff that pertains to what we're doing, not so much maybe in this little bubble here, but on the whole. And I love to give people information on, like, I can give you information on what's going on in the current economic climate. That's why I told my friends, when tell your people the truth. The interest rates just went to 7.8. Look at this. I did it for one of my agents. Show them it on paper, and then they'll say, "Oh, I get it." It's not the agent per se. We're giving you what's going on in the current climate.
Your mom sees the videos I send you?
We and her talk a lot in a weird. So I always tell her about different videos and stuff, and some of the stuff we reference on the show, but just all kinds of different topics that kind of, like, again, people in real estate get in the real estate bubble, but there's a lot more climate, economic factors and all that are going into people buying and selling.
Yeah, see, because I've sent you some, like, from Uncle Tony's garage, when he's telling how to refab a car. As a daily driver, and he tells you basically the same thing that we're talking about when you're buying a house and fixing it up. It doesn't have to have all this fancy stuff on it that you dream about, that you're brainwashed by the advertisers to buy. You can make it good enough, especially at first.
So I'll give you this. My father was a mechanic. He worked for SEPTA, and he loved roll-up windows. You know why? He said, when that mechanism breaks to put those windows up, I don't have to take that door apart on my time to go fix he goes, my arm works just as well. I could roll that window up and down. This has come from a mechanic. That was the point. You don't need that. He loved the Saturns because they were easy to work on and they were no frills, but they were reliable. He loved that thing. Like, it was a value. And he always used to say, I say, Dad, everybody has power windows. Why do you not have power? Son, I don't feel like taking that whole door apart to redo that mechanism, and it's expensive. He said, my arm works just fine. I can roll that window up. And all those bells and whistles, my heater guy tells me, buy the Goodman. He said it has less things that are going to break on it, that they're not as fancy with the selling points with the bells and whistles, but they're a solid unit. They might last 1 or 2 years less than the name brand, but you're getting better value. We'll get into that with real estate too. Go ahead, Hub.
And when people buy a house, I guess the wife is doing this, but they're saying you got to update everything to the latest fashion.
A lot of times they are. Well, let's talk about this on the rental front. They're building these great big executive style rental communities, right? And they're charging $2,000 to $3,000 a month. What's their draw, Hub? The community room and the amenities on the property, the pool, the game room, the little bar area, the TV area in the community.
The gym.
Yes. So check this out. Nobody uses them. I asked all my friends, my niece just sat down in her atrium for like the first time. It's what Hub made the point to. It's the marketing draw to get you in and saying, look at all these things we have, but nobody uses them because they're all so busy. They're not going to sit down there and play games and VR and all that all day long. They don't use it, but it's the marketing draw to get you in. And this is honestly, we don't do the marketing draw thing. We just do straightforward, honest, upfront real estate.
House flippers do that too. They'll make a media room or something like that. But that's a real trendy thing. And most people are not going to really need a media room that's specified for the media room. But people will buy it because they think they have to have it updated that particular way.
100%.
And imagine this. When I moved in, there was a lot of things in this place. I thought, well, I'm going to change that. But then I got used to it and I said, well, there was a reason my dad had it like this. And I got used to it. And I'm like, well, I got to keep it that way. So what if you just keep it the way it is for a while and see if you can get used to it? Then you'll see why it was that way in the first place, and you might not want to change it.
Some people are doing virtual staging, and they're showing you a media room in a room of what it could look like. So instead of actually, if somebody moved out, so we just did this one in Havertown. Lisa has it listing in Havertown. Beautiful house, but some people don't have the vision when the furniture's not there. So the Hub's point, again, they virtually stage it. Here's what a media room looks like. Here's what this room could look like as a little guest room. And it gives people more visualization for what they want. Here's the problem right now. What people want and what people can afford are two different things big time. You can't afford it, but you have people coming in and maxing out their budgets. And I'm trying to tell people, take a breath a minute. If you're not forced to do this, or can you, like Hub said, can you get used to using that? Because, cash flow's at a premium right now for people.
But you also said that you put everything on paper too.
I'm a visual guy. If you said to me, Hub, I'm looking for, I call you up, we have a conversation. I look for a house for $200,000. You say to me, okay, how the hell you can afford that, Hub? First of all, what are the taxes? What's your homeowner's insurance? What area you're looking in? How much of the house? We have to unravel that to see what your 200,000 looks like, right? What does that number look like on paper in the area you want to be in? And what are the taxes in that area and stuff?
And if something goes wrong, how are you going to get it fixed?
I tell people, do you have at least 3 months set aside? I know it's far-fetched, but 3 months can go. Same thing with my office budget. People's office budgets have been blown up, but I had the rainy day fund. So you always have to try to, I know we're a little older, so we're a little more learned in that. And over time you change a little bit, but they're all good points. Did you get a new computer over there, or why are you so clear today over there?
Me or me?
Hub.
Probably because of these Ryobi lights I got here. Have you seen these?
Look,
I've got 2 of them.
Look how good he looks.
Yeah,
he looks like he's like.
See, it'll do all the 4 lights. I can use them for everything. So that's all 4. This is like super, like LED.
Yeah, they're all
got halo on right here.
Yeah. I was wondering.
Like this.
Yeah, I've seen them.
You can hang them up too, like this.
You know what? Hey, when we were younger, we don't have to hold the light for our dad anymore. He could have just bought them and used them, so I didn't have to hold the light with the light.
Yeah, right.
And then drop it and then break the light bulb and get yelled at and all that. We don't have to go
There's only about 13 factories in the Far East that make these things, like the power tools and the lights and all this stuff like this. And this is Home Depot's brand.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm reading up on all these vehicles. All these newer compact SUVs are being made in South Korea. And, they're having trouble getting them over here like we were talking about. But it's funny where certain segments of the world are pocketed and making certain things. It's a shame. We got to bring some of that back here, but it's hard to meet the price points.
Absolutely.
Well, South Korea is a country that we're very allied with.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, we're really close with them, and that's really good. The thing is like, for instance, like the drills and all that kind of stuff that the guys use for construction, they can't be made in the United States because we don't have the facilities to make them here.
It's wild.
We don't have it's not set up to do it. We're so dependent upon them.
It's craziness. So, Bay, what do you got?
So, I got a couple questions. Number one, going back to the high interest rates. When 25 years ago, when I bought my house, and it wasn't a fact of the high interest rates, it was the fact of just having such bad credit, me and my ex-wife. And we bought our house, and our interest rate was, believe it or not, 12%. And we didn't even deal with a real estate agent, just dealt straight up with because we bought the house we were renting from our landlord, and we just dealt with the mortgage agent. So the mortgage guy said to us, look, here's your situation. You don't have a good track record. You don't have a good credit. This is as low as I can get you. But, work on your credit, and say in 2 years' time, refinance it. And that we did, and it dropped it down to I think 7%. And then we refinanced again in 5 years and got it down to 4%. Do you or Do you ever have that conversation with any of your
It's every
customers?
day now. It's every day now. But the fear is, like Hub and I look at all these videos to try to get an idea where things are going. It's
Right.
hard to say that it's a definite. This is a good point on a couple of things we were talking about. One, it's hard to say as far as let me just out there, as far as okay, the mortgage guys will say, hey, the interest rate's at 7.7, but it's going to come down. When it comes down, we'll refi you at a no-cost refi, and they will, a lot of companies. But here's the thing, to Hub's point, what if it doesn't come down, and what if you were banking on it coming down and you were budgeting on it coming down and you don't see it coming down because we don't know what the hell's going to happen? If you asked me 6-8 months ago, was the interest rates going to 7.7, I'd tell you crazy, nuts. I didn't think they were going to get above say 6.5, 6, 7, maybe in that range, not up a whole point from there. That to me got catastrophic. And to Hub's point, like the mortgage guys, because the only way we're getting people in right now, because that number is scary no matter how you look at it, at 7.7, 7.6, 7.8.
Sure.
So it lessens the blow to say it's okay, it'll come down. I hope for everybody's sake that they figure this out and this interest rate moderates down. But like Hub's point, you better be able to afford the number you're going in at. Like I had a couple people recently that were very, very tight getting in, and they're expecting that interest. They come there and say, when's the interest rate going down? Hey, I can only tell you what I'm seeing and hearing and cross-sectioning. And if it's fact, I'll tell you it's fact. Most of the time it's just prognostication.
Right.
Well, this guy, one rental at a time, in the past year, he's predicted that he thought it was going to go to 10 eventually. I know nobody wants to hear that, but
well, I'll tell you that we're seeing. I'm not seeing anything today that says that this thing's going down. I mean, the demand for buyers is still there. What we're running into is, which it's all convoluted. We're running into the lack of inventory, which a lot of it is attributed to the interest rate. So it's a circle of death right now. I mean,
what they say also is some people predict that the interest rates are going to come down some because of the election coming up.
Now listen, from past history, I tend to agree with it, especially if it's like Barack Obama was going to get back in, most people thought, so it wasn't as volatile. This could be more volatile. This could put policies out there that are pro people because politicians want your vote. It happens every election cycle. I do agree with that.
Yes, but the kicker on that is that once they're elected, they're going to raise them right back up again.
I tend to agree that happens.
They say that they're all saying that.
Well, listen, you see this in different segments, and that's why, I have it with some of these politicians where you're the elected for the people, just like I give it to people straight. I'm losing hires right now, new agents, because I'm not guaranteeing them leads, right? So, like right now, in a lot of fronts, that the leads are just not quality leads. You're just wasting money. Like I say to people, I could go out and spend $300 a month and give you leads, and then you go chase those garbage leads. You don't get anywhere. You quit next year, and I'm out $3,600. Or like Dave Stinson did for me, I can teach you how to be a well-rounded professional realtor and earn your own business and get into different segments. I have a buddy of mine right now that's saying the new people that are coming aboard aren't as skilled and can't be well-rounded, and you have to say to them, hey, you just deal with buyers or you just deal with sellers. That's against what we learned, old school Dave Stinson style, where he taught us how to get business and be a professional. It's a sales job. It's a project manager job. It's not for everybody. I can't play music instruments like Hub. It's a skill that not everybody can. It's not that they can't acquire it. It's like anything. When you first pick up a guitar, you're not going to be good unless you're an odd one-off. You have to learn. Like right now, for example, what I'm doing. I just did a commercial lease. And generally, when I'm hot and heavy in the residential side, I don't touch the commercial. Opportunity was there. I have the skill to do the commercial. I made some money on that. I just did a referral from New Jersey. I referred. I'm getting 20% referral fee. I made some money on that. So I'm working through a lot of my buyers, and I'm working double time to try to find them houses. I'm not doing a computer generated search. I'm doing the search. I'm driving around the neighborhoods. I'm looking the stuff up granularly. So you can do things to improve your business unit, not just promise people leads. We have one company right now. I don't know what they're saying to people, but they're taking potential agents out from under a lot of us. I tell you the truth. No bullshit. Zero. People don't like it. They want, like Hub said, they want that pretty. They will go into a house and see pretty floors and granite countertops, but don't see the 25-year-old heater and air conditioner. I'm the guy waving saying, ho, 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 that air conditioner's got to be replaced and it's going to cost you $8-9 grand. You know, are you willing to pay for that when it breaks? Like Hub said, it might not break. It might last another 4 years because it's an older unit and it's well made, but you know that it's at the end of life and you have to budget for replacement.
Well, like you were talking about earlier, is that when you train somebody to be a listing agent and a buying agent, that becoming more trained in a listing agent and becoming more trained in a buying agent, you're learning both skills at the same time. Each skill helps each other.
100%. And what about in a market like this where there's really not many listings? So,
it gives you more skills that you can bring to the marketplace so that you're going to be more valuable to the marketplace. And in the long run, you're going to make more money.
And it takes time sometimes.
But people don't think about the long run. They want the money now. They don't realize that you need to work for the education. It's not about the money. It's about the long term that you're working for.
So here's the problem. And sometimes I'm bad at it. How do we in our industry, like other industries, articulate that to people coming into business because they're hearing the hawks circling to get you to join their brokerage because it's about the units, right? So right now, all the units are down 40% on average across the board. So they're drawing at straws to bring in anybody. I need a cough button. I need a cough button, babe. Excuse me, to bring in anybody to say, just join us because maybe you'll sell something.
Maybe you'll what?
Maybe they'll sell something. So they'll just bring in any agent with the hopes they get a deal from him and the brokerage makes money. Instead of making sure that agent's a fit for them, instead of making sure that what you're telling that agent is true, a lot of people will blow smoke and they're really not giving them benefits. But the people that are new to the industry, they don't know. I mean, I didn't know all I know is I had my cousin Linda Johnson. My family owned the Century 21 and I knew they were looking out for me. It was a different scenario for me.
Well, it's that way in any field. The basic principle, any of these guys that teach you business skills and all that, it's all about education, learning more skills. You see, and you got to think of, okay, the more I learn, the more I'm going to make more money. I'm going to be more valuable.
And retention, like that. All my old Dave Stinson, I told you this before, used to tell us stories. I say, Dave, I have this issue. And he would say, Mary Simmons, 84, had the same problem. And this is what we did. And I would just listen to the parable he was giving me and go back and implement it. And he would say, this is what I think you should do because this is the experience I had. This is how we should handle it. But the retention and the ability to kind of his way was remembering it by the stories and the people. Here's a guy, 82, that can remember almost every person he ever dealt with. So to me, it's a skill set that a lot of people today, when they're done the transactions, they want it to go out of their head. They're not absorbing the information and cumulatively learning.
Yeah, but you got to figure out a way to get people excited about learning how to do this thing. Hey, man, I can really develop my skills, my intellect. I'm going to develop my work ethic better because I'm learning how to do both things.
That's a great point.
In this video I was telling you about before, Loida Velasquez, she says the title of the video is Buyer's Agent, Don't Waste Your Time. Because she specializes in being a listing agent. But that's not a positive title, because it's not about how much time it is. It's about learning how to do it right. and do it more efficiently than you
That's
did
the
the
key.
last time.
If you take anyway 6:44, about 42 minutes into this, 40 minutes and 4 seconds into this episode, that's the takeaway, right? From homeowners and sellers to realtors, that's the takeaway. It's not. I always say it's not the quick beat you over the head with a bat, grab the deal and go. It's about that long term. You know what I mean? I don't spend this is the first year with the Barnstormers relationship because it made sense that we spent money on a major marketing campaign. I get my business through sphere of influence and referrals. I have an African family. They're from Nigeria and Liberians, and I met them. I met them in Fallcroft. They just called me like a week and a half ago. Ishmael, he calls me up. He says, Danny, my brother. He says, my brother is going to buy a house. He's going to call you. I already told him you're the family. You call Dan up because they trust me and they appreciate me giving to them straight, right? So some people may not treat them the same. They have a heavy accent. They're the smartest people you ever meet, but they're newer to America. They know when they call me that I got their back. We keep it straight. And now I'm working with his brother now. Do you know this will be the 5th deal from that family in 2 years?
Wow.
And I do not, I don't have to spend money on, like Hub's saying, I try to do a good job. I try to learn on every transaction, and I try to make sure I'm bringing value to my client because you can hire 36,000 other people to do the job. Why these people keep coming back to me and Bo DeForge, CMG Home Loans? He always says, Mr. Dan and Mr. Bo, because we are honest with them. We give it to them straight, and we represent them like it's our transaction. We do that for everybody. Can we say everybody does it? Well, you'll find out when you deal with people. But when you come to us, Bay will tell you, this is how we do our business every day. And we might not be successful every day because we don't have a smoke gun out there every day.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing old school real estate like Dave and the Cub is talking about. We're trying to do things the right way and learn on every transaction and get better every day.
But once you become successful at a transaction, you can apply what you use from that transaction to the next one. But it's all a building process. But people want it overnight.
Yeah. And Hub, they don't want to build. Like some of my newer agents 2 years ago, we had a great year. We crushed it. They said, Dan, I wish I could do that. You're doing so well. I said, this is my 15th year. And this is the first year that we eclipsed close to 6 million. It was from hard work, and it was from those, like you're laying bricks, like my family's in the construction business. It takes time, just like you on your instruments. I played the French horn. You think we learned that overnight, picking up a horn and start playing? It takes time. You have to listen and learn from people. That's why the videos we watch, like you said, is everything great in them? But you get a different perspective, and you always learn something from everything that you're doing or looking at, just to help you give out more information to your clients and be more learned and engaged. Why is someone hiring you to be a real estate agent? They want your experience and your professional knowledge. That's why they're hiring a realtor, or they don't need a realtor. So if you're a realtor that isn't engaged in the everyday aspects of this thing, why do you expect the consumer to hire you? Because you're Uncle Charlie and you're Aunt Cindy's friend from bowling? I mean, how learned are you, and how much do you want to implement that and do right by your clients?
Yeah, but people do. They will hire somebody just because it's their friend or their relative.
I just had it with my Guys Day Out crew. Guys were hiring people. My buddy Phil is dedicated to an agent.
But they're not the most qualified person to get them the best deal. That's 100%. Really hard for people to think, because they want to walk in and they think that anybody's going to give them the same deal that you are, Dan, and it's not true, because they don't have the experience and the special knowledge that you have.
Well, it's funny, we were talking about, and it's a service level. Our industry is all about service. We were just talking about this, and I used to be the only guy sometime to go to Dave's trainings. Every week, the guy would put on a 90-minute training for us, different topics. I mean, the guy was in the business when I was with him for like 50 years. I'd be the only one sitting there. So I took the opportunity to get trained, not only, and then because I was absorbing it, we had an office. There was a lot of old timers that had their own brokerages and stuff, but were just working with Dave because they were past retirement age. Al Madeira, Jimmy Coral, great guys that have passed away. They used to help me because they said, you're engaged and you want to learn, so we'll help you. If we see people that don't care, we don't bother. But we know you care and want to do right, so we'll help you. And that's how
But
I
you
learned
also
all these
wanted to
things.
learn it the right way.
That's the key. And I took the time to listen and absorb it and understand it. And between them and Dave, look how much, I mean, I feel like they gave me a career. People say, well, why do you talk about this guy? They tell, I credit everyone that helped me. Guy Diana, my brother-in-law, with the financials coming in, different things that people have helped us with. You know, and it's appreciative, or else we could not get this thing off the ground with a couple people that helped us get this thing and believe that we could pull this off. So right now, like everybody, I'm upset about us not doing as well on a whole because of the current climate conditions, but we have to figure out a way to play in the space. It's like adjusting when you're playing with different kids that you may or may not get along with or from different backgrounds or whatever. How do we play in the space and be successful? And that's the key right now. People gave us the tools and the ability to get this thing. We're 5 years in. We're just over 5 years in. So now how do we adjust to get it? We went through a flood. We went through a broker change. We went through so many things. COVID 2 years. So this is another challenge. And through learning, just like you, Hub, when you're working with your instruments, sometimes you'll get like a block and you want to try to keep practicing certain things to get over the hump and be better at it.
So is it a big challenge to hire new agents right now, or even to keep agents?
Keeping them, I just did a one-on-ones with every agent, right? So I thought it was time to sit down, and we did a questionnaire. So I put out a 5-question questionnaire. I looked up a bunch of stuff and made sense of the 5 questions I wanted to ask everybody, and we had a open, honest one-on-one. My agents are good. Like I had a friend of mine, one of his agents left after 20 years. I would hope, I know people move and I'm not naive, but I would hope that we would have a better dialogue and with the current group. My current group has been with me from the beginning to try to grow it. Like I hired a guy from Lancaster, very excited. I'm trying to break into Lancaster. And the guy ended up going with another big brokerage because they gave him something. They told him something. And he was with me for 2 weeks and said, I'm moving over to the big box brokerage. And hey, I was new too, so I can't say to guy, oh, you're wrong. Let him learn. Let him see what it is. I worked for them. I worked for 3 big box brokerages. I worked for Weichert. I worked for Keller Williams for a short stint. 4 of them, Century 21 and Long and Foster, 4. So I have the experiences of being at that. And certain people like certain things at brokerages that others don't. I said this a million times. I loved Weichert. Other people don't see the same value in Weichert that I saw. So it depends on what your business unit is, what agents are looking for. Right now, agents are just looking for deals. So if I tell you I'll give you leads, they're garbage leads. Okay, I'll give you leads. Is that going to help keep the people there? Help make them learn it? Help them have the office culture that we have? Not necessarily. So I'd rather not take them in if they don't meet what we're looking for. And if they don't see the value in what we're bringing, but like Hub said, we're bringing that long-term building block value that may not fit that I need it now mentality, because our industry right now, as far as units is down and we get paid when we sell houses. But what did I say to you? I'm doing commercial. I'm doing rentals. I'm going to the city to do more business because it's, to me, I call it my low-hanging fruit, lesser price points. I know I can stick my nose in there and get some deals done. Do what you got to do, but continue to work. I have $1 million buyer right now, $1 million buyer right now. And I'm also selling $60,000 houses in Northeast Philly. This is what I do, the diversity of what I do, and everybody in between. My African family, it's always consistent with me. And there's some other people, my investors that were looking, so you got to cross section everything right now and see where you could stick your nose in to make money in this climate. And then how do we build on that to get, once this shifts, like we talked about the presidential stuff, when things shift, we have to be ready to shift with the market.
Well, a lot of people don't look at a job as an education, and the way to look at a job is to look at what can I learn from this job, and not about the money as much. I know that's sort of a blanket statement, but I didn't mean it that way.
No, it's true.
Because the more skills you get, the more you're going to be able to navigate in other circumstances.
And when it gets tough, like now, it got tough. 60,000 people left the real estate industry.
Well,
60,000
now
people dropped off.
the bigger companies do not want you to be more well-rounded. They want you to specialize in one or the other. There's
Which
a
kills
reason
me.
for that too,
100%.
and that applies to the music business too, because there's a musical instrument factory. I can't name the name of it, but at first you could, when you worked there, you could build your own instruments there. You could build your own guitars and banjos, etc. And then after a few years, they decided you could only build one a year. And then they got to a point where you couldn't build any there at the place on your own. And then then they changed it even more so that they didn't want guys that built guitars to work there. They wanted guys that just did one thing. They did maybe the finish on the guitars. One guy just does the finish. They pay him really good, but they just do that thing. They're not an entrepreneur.
It's a great point.
Um, but how are they going to? There's a reason the big businesses don't want the guy who's as well rounded and entrepreneurial minded to work there.
So how do we keep pace as like us? We're a smaller brokerage with a national footprint, and that's why that I was drawn to NextHome. One of the reasons was it's a national brand with 700 offices, but we're a small individually owned mom and pop within the community. And I'll give you an example. My mom always says I say too much, but it is what it is. Compass Real Estate. I tell you, I don't care anymore. I tell you straight. Sometimes my brother-in-law cringes too. I tell you straight out. Compass Real Estate. They're a hedge fund backed company. A lot of foreign money, big dollar backing. They came in the area and they bought up all the top real estate teams from Keller Williams and other big companies that had major teams. They paid them handsomely, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000. I'm talking. Come over to Compass, and you're going to be the elite. We're going to be the top tier. They had a sign that looked like a stop sign, a for sale sign. It cost $2,500. This is the target market they were going for. So the economy now has shifted, and I get a kick out of it because I'm in Fallcroft and I'm in working class neighborhoods, lower price pointed houses, doing a lot of business. Who's down there now? Compass. And I thought, well, you guys are the elite. You guys are the squawk boxes at the top of the food chain. Now you're down into our territory. And hey, it's free entrepreneurs, so do what you got to do. But the setup of what they were trying to do was good when we had a trickle down in excess inventory. Now they're back trying to get whatever they can get, and they left their niche market per se, which was the way they were built upon because of the current climate. And they're down selling 80, 100, $200,000 houses. I've always been in those markets and diversified my market. But ours is, how do we articulate our brand to agents and people that want to buy and sell and say, why are we different? That's the challenge.
Well, that's a great story that you just told, because anybody who's going to be your best plumber or your best air conditioner guy or your best pool guy, he's going to be most probably not going to be anybody who works for a company at all. He's going to be an entrepreneur on his own because he doesn't need to work for the big company. He can make more money and he can have more freedom working on his own because he has specialized skills that he's able to do that the young guys at those big companies don't know how to do.
And here's an example, just a small. And Bay, Hub was saying we should cut up some clips of the podcast, some of the discussions, and just put them out there in some shorts, which I think makes sense, and some of the stuff we're talking about. But oh God, what is it? See that when you get 50, turned 51, and I forget what I was going to say.
Yeah, but that story that you just told applies to the music business too, because Guitar Center did that. They never ever planned on having guitar lessons or guitar repair in Guitar Center, and then they started doing that. But it was really, I'll put it this way: it was very difficult for them to adapt to that model because they got they're so big that the right hand doesn't always know what the left hand does. So a big corporation like that's really hard for them to have a really niche thing that is very geared toward the individual.
Bay, that's why we bring him on. So that just jogged my memory. So example, I worked at Long and Foster, had a great run there 5 years. Just happened to be where I was at. Their headquarters is in Chantilly, Virginia. So I had a deal that I needed some financial give back the way the deal was structured. I went to my management at my local branch and said, listen, here's the business case. I think we need to adapt financially a little bit on our end to see if we can get this done. They said, we have to send it down to Virginia. It's going to be 7 to 10 days for an answer. I don't have 7 to 10 days. I need it. I'm trying to get a deal done now. This is what we can do. And when we were Century 21, and now that I'm NextHome, and when I worked for Dave Stinson, if I brought Dave Stinson a business case and it made sense for the client and for everybody, we did the deal. Some major companies, like you're saying, Hub, can't do it because they're corporate entity and it's just the red tape you have to go through. We can make the decisions immediately, whatever makes sense for our clients and our business.
The other thing is they can't think outside the box like you can. They
100%.
can't do it. They don't have the creativity and they don't have the management skills to get individual people that are really super outside the box.
It's true. And like when other companies
and to
are
teach people the whole idea of selling houses and music lessons is to teach people to do things that they hadn't considered would be valuable.
Right. And it's your job to bring up the information and to lay that out there because it might not be something they're thinking about. Like I said, when I walk the houses with them, I give them little points of information just as and like I say, it's your decision, but I'm going to give you the information to help you make an educated decision.
Yeah, there was this girl at the last guitar show I went to, and she was a great singer. She's maybe 18, something like that, and she sang Barracuda just like Ann Wilson. It was really amazing. And she was, I talked to her and her dad after the show, and she takes voice lessons at the School of Rock. And I was trying to explain to him, you don't just learn the hit songs. You got to learn the nitty gritty stuff. The stuff. If you went and met Ann Wilson, she didn't study stuff that was just hits. She studied the blues artists that never ever had a hit. She studied the unusual artists that were out there, and she was able to take ideas from people that weren't famous too.
Yeah, yep.
But if you go to School of Rock, you have to learn the hit songs.
So let's wrap up with this.
Because it's easier to teach that to somebody. Because most people are not very open-minded.
Absolutely. One of Joe's aides was over today, and I forget what he went to school for, but he's took vocal classes and all. But they're opening a new School of Rock's huge. They're opening a new School of Rock and media, and he was hired to do vocal coaching down there. So I thought that was neat. Yeah, a good guy, Pete. He was just here today helping us with Joe. But we were just talking about School of Rock today. That's a good business model, that School of Rock, and there's good money in that. So they're opening one in media, Bay. They're opening one up in media. So it's
but it's not. I know. I don't want to say anything. I mean, I'm sure it's good, but I'm just telling you, it's very expensive comparatively.
Very expensive. Oh yeah.
It's very expensive, and again, they're playing all the songs that I was teaching people years ago that wanted to learn those songs, but they're leaving out a whole bunch of stuff that you could be teaching people that people have never heard of that would actually help them and enrich them as musicians. Because anybody that ever hung out with David Lee Roth, he had everything all day long. He was listening to old blues artists that nobody ever heard of. He was listening to disco music, which had nothing to do with what he was doing, because he wanted to bring that into his music.
This is going to be the Hub Hour soon, Ben. He is the best. What was in the box before we go? What was in the box?
Well, I was just going to show you when you order a 6-pack of Mrs. Renfro's, this is what the box looks like.
Oh.
That's all. So check this out. So I'm going to bring the ghost pepper down to my buddies running the Nile Swim Club. Bay knows where that's at in Yated, and they go nuts with Super Hot. I said, we're going to go down there. Maybe I'll grab a video. I'm bringing the Ghost Pepper Mrs. Renfro's down there for them to try.
But I wanted to, this is what you get when you order a 6-pack. But I don't think it's really any cheaper. Now, you've got Acme Grocery where you live. Is that right?
We have them, yeah.
Not Acme, but Acme.
Yeah, the Acme, as Aunt Angie would say. The Acme.
Yeah,
Yes.
now I looked that up, and I'm pretty sure they have Mrs. Renfro, and I don't think it's any cheaper anymore to buy it in a 6-pack.
They're expensive at Acme. I have to go down there and check it out. We have one Acme down at Thorndale. I have to check it out. Bay, what do you have to wrap us up? What do you got?
I got one little question statement I wanted to throw out there. So I have a friend of mine who I used to play in a band with like over 30 years, and he's a real estate guy. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, Dan, but he's always like putting up these statements on Facebook, and I'm like, oh, I want to like say these to Dan and get Dan's opinion on them. And I screenshotted a couple over this past week, so I'm just going to throw one out there because I think this this definitely is something for Hub to comment on as well. So he said, Airbnb profits are down 22% this year. Long-term rentals are stable in this housing shortage. I've been doing this for 30 years. Our economic direction is very gray.
It's dead. I would have wrote it. It's dead on. And the gray, I don't always word things right. The gray is the perfect thing. We have no clue whether it's going to get darker or lighter. He's dead on. The Airbnb thing, I think, is going to bounce a little bit. And nobody around here, the only thing you see being built with a lot of consistency are these executive style rentals. They're going up everywhere. And a 1-bedroom, you're lucky if a 1-bedroom's under 2,000 and a 3-bedroom's 3,000. So the numbers are exorbitant. They're not built. My point is, they're not building them not to make money. There's no way they didn't do the actuary and the numbers and all that stuff to say. But I think he's dead on with the statement. That's my opinion.
So it's going to be like a $2,000 Airbnb?
Oh, no. We were talking about two different things there. Airbnbs, people are saying invest in Airbnbs because a lot of people doing short-term rentals right now. A lot of people are transient with working, and a lot of people are sold their houses and haven't bought anything. And a lot of people are traveling to try to see where they want to live. So they're doing these different Airbnb things. That's happening. And then these executive style condos is a whole nother thing that's going on.
I would say try and learn everything you can about it and then make up your own mind, because I don't think anybody knows about what literally everybody's predicting everything right now, as we both know from those videos. But as far as Airbnb concerned is if you have a property that actually is practical, it's going to work for it. Usually if it's a separate building, it's on your property.
How are you doing with your Airbnb?
Great. It's just no difference.
Okay. See, but that he's somebody that has one, so he's not seeing.
Yeah, and but we're right in, and we have an excellent location. Plus, it's a separate house. So, but it's on our property. But if you think that you can, like we were saying before, if you think that you can buy a house and then you can have somebody else clean it and set it up for you, it's going to be really difficult. Now, if you live in your house and you want to rent one room out for people that are traveling through town, that's going to work, but if you want to rent 1 or 2 rooms out in your house.
We're seeing that now. My neighbor just said she's single now and 2 doors down here. And she was saying she's looking to rent a room. $1,000 a month they're paying for a room.
Wow.
The best thing to do that is to go on something like I think it's called Furnish Finders, and you can have like a nurse, somebody who are really professional, and they can rent it for 2 months or whatever, and they're trustworthy because they're nurses and they're very highly responsible people.
You know what else?
Something like that
with the Airbnb stuff, the pilots and the flight attendants, they're renting those places like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been some communities just being built for just strictly rental houses, like in Florida and all, just strictly rentals. But I think he's spot on.
But people were doing that. They were doing all kinds of stuff, spending all kinds of money, not even knowing what they were doing, thinking they were going to get free money.
It's true.
And the other problem we have a really bad problem, is because labor has gone way up on everything since the quarantine.
100%.
Labor of cleaning properties, labor for help from guys that are immigrants from Mexico. They want way more money than they ever did with no
I just
skills.
heard that today. Yep.
No skills. There's no way that's sustainable. It's no way that's going to last. It's just, it can't, because there's no way, because the guy that with no skills is trying to make $150 or $160 a day with no skills and no tools. And the guy with really good skills is getting $300 a day that actually lives here, is actually a citizen. Okay. So I'm talking about the guy that doesn't really speak English too well, but he's a really excellent worker. He's getting about $300 a day.
Yeah.
So there's no way the guy with no skills and no tools is going to get $160 or $150 a day.
Well, I just talked to some of the day. They're saying the labor rate is so high and it's such a poor quality that they're having trouble getting people to work just in general. But here's the thing, Danny's 16. I applied to 5 places. Nobody would hire him because they don't want the liability of a 16-year-old. I had to drive him down to Kareem Bay to give him a job because I couldn't get him anything. And he's got his working papers. He's legit. You know, he's got them all signed off on and all. But I have to drive an hour down to Kareem to get him to work because I couldn't get him a job around here.
That's
so everybody
crazy.
says they want a job, or the people say they want to hire, but they're too lazy to coordinate. And even some of my buddies, real quick, trying to get a job, they're applying and they have to wait 2-3 months for a response because they don't have an HR person and all that stuff. It's the same with us. When he mentions gray, and then my point to that is, let's figure out how to work in the gray space right now. My buddy Pete used to say, when there's minutia, there's opportunity. That's to sum it up.
That's a great quote. Now, are there any restaurants around where you live that he could work at?
I got a bunch. And well, here's what I did. Because I got frustrated with all the applications, our friend Bay knows him, our friend Kareem Horton, he's running the swim club. Kareem's a professional chef. I figured let him learn there. And then come the winter time, come back home, and then I can go to these places and say he has experience now.
Yep.
And I'll guarantee you, all of a sudden, the 16 doesn't matter because he knows how to work the fryer. He knows how to work on the grill. And Kareem's giving him an opportunity to learn. Like we said, it's not always about the money, and I got to drive him an hour each way, but it's about him getting the opportunity, and he's absorbing it. He likes it. He's learning. And then I can come back here and say, guess what? He worked for Horton Culinary Delights. He knows how to work the fryer. He knows how to work the grill. He knows how to clean up at the end of the night. They'll hire him in a minute.
Yep.
Is that Tim Hortons chicken or something?
No, that's the best. Have you had that?
Never had. They don't have that here.
Oh, we got a couple over here. You know what you have over there is that we'll talk about that next episode. We're going to talk about chicken on the next episode. We're going to get into chicken across the board. There's a couple. There's a new one by us. I got to look up the name of it. It's in Vegas too. You have it in Texas. I'm trying to think of the name.
El Pollo Loco is really good.
And I like that's when we went to. We'll talk about that too.
And when Golden Chick is really good too.
El Pollo Loco I've had because every time we went to Arizona, we used to stop at El Pollo Loco. That's very good too. All right, Bay, close us out of here before we're way over time here.
All right, everybody. We're back again next month. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to Hub. If you are in the Delaware Valley area, it doesn't matter if you're in Philadelphia, Delaware County, Montgomery County, Chester County, all the way out to Lancaster County. Dan will be there. He'll go there, and he will get you into your next home. Why?
Let me just sorry to cut you off. I'm cutting base, closing off. Hub carried us tonight. It's been very busy for me. Hub is always spot on and Bay with the topics. And I want to thank you guys because you guys carried this thing. So I appreciate it.
I said 2 syllables, so hey.
Hub always Hub is prepared, but no, I just wanted to get that in there because I had some family issues, a bunch of stuff going on, and I'm always like notes always, but I know Hub. Danny had us late getting on. I appreciate you, Hub. He does this for fun. He doesn't do it for money. He's a friend of Bay's that we kind of got connected. And I appreciate him having him on the program because you see how much he brings and how much intellect and insight he brings to the program.
Well, thank you guys.
Thank you all. And hey, go to nexthomebrandywine.com and Dan will be your man and get you into that next home.
Thank you, guys. See you next
Take
month.
care, everybody.